Welcome to my channel, Redeeming Thunder. My name is Erica, and I'm here to give you a prophetic word regarding the prodigal's return. Now, before talking about the return, let's talk about what it took, what sacrifice it took in order to get to where we are right now. This prophetic word was given to me on 9/21/2024. Years prior to that, we had made a decision to provide obedience to the Most High. And if you consult regular people of what to do, of course they're going to say, no, stick it through, push through, don't sacrifice your Isaac, okay, and make it work. It will work out. But we knew that it was not working out. Keeping the prodigals in the home during that time was not working out. And what looked like choosing my husband over my children, well, in the Bible, the hierarchy is Yahuah, your spouse, your children. But many people did not understand that, okay? And we were in need of some peace. I want to explain a little bit of my past. I had to go to jail for something I didn't do. My husband had to go to jail for something he didn't do. And of course, it's a few hours, okay? We didn't have to suffer as long as Joseph in the Bible suffered, okay, in jail. But the point is to have to pay the price for something that you didn't do, then go through all the motions of all the classes that they require, of all the volunteer work, which was not burdensome for me. I volunteered with this lovely lady for teaching people Spanish, and a really fun environment, okay? It doesn't always have to be burdensome. But this is the thing. It was a testing of character. All these trials that you had to go through, hanging out with people that don't like you, pretending that they like you so that you're keeping them around, but really they're just monitoring spirits and making your problems worse. All that time was also then another trial. Okay, so back in the day, there was a test. Getting tested and being charged with something I didn't do. It has been a journey to expunge the record. It has been a journey to a psychological traumatic journey to go through the motions of something that I didn't do, and my kids taken into the other parents' custody due to that. Colluding occurred, defaming my character. And people knew who I was. This is the thing. But when I tried to separate myself from toxic, all of a sudden they wanted to believe the false story about me. And there was a lot of slander, and there was a lot of witchcraft, okay? And there was a lot of abandonment and neglect on care for someone that was going through a very difficult time. And it felt like prison. They literally deprived me of everybody for like months. And I was worried how I was going to pay my rent. Like, they deprived me of everything. They went to a full harsh, I had hired 2 attorneys, and it was a very difficult time for me. But guess what? That was about 8 years ago. And the trials continued because the parent kept stealing my children, even though we already had established parenting time, even though we had done all the requirements. Those trials continuing, and then those ridicules around surrounding people of friend enemies continued. Okay? And so life got somewhat back into routine. But here again, there was more trials. Okay? And that defame of character to the point of tainting my name in the courts, that wanted to resurface again. In other words, the ex was trying to get the children involved and colluding with to throw me back in jail again. And we weren't going to have it. Okay? They're either trying to throw my husband in jail or they're trying to throw me in jail. And it was this back and forth thing for several years. And I get it. This sounds like horrific nonsense story, but it's actually a true story. It's mine. Okay? And you would think, what was the purpose of all that torture and torment? What was the purpose? Because there was a lot of trauma. There was a lot of abandonment. There was a lot of departing of toxic relationships. Then they get angry and then, you know, retaliate, etc. Okay? There was a lot of spirit of Pharaoh, domineering spirit over the children. But what I had to do is break many generational curses in these last years. Get on my knees and pray for my family, pray for my children, because the enemy really tried to divide our family to the extreme. Now, this word of the prodigals returning has a lot to do with sacrificing your Isaac. And you're going to be like, what does that mean? Okay. So Abraham was just craving to have a child. But with his wife, they couldn't get pregnant. Okay. And so that basically he waited like he was 100 years old or more. And his wife was around 90. And she finally got pregnant at that age. Okay. So they really treasured this child. They really treasured this child that Yahuah gave him. And then this child grew up. Now he's in teenage years, teeny bopper years. And Yahuah is saying, I need you to go up the mountain and I will provide the sacrifice. And so you're going to think, okay, where is it though? And so they went on their way. And who ended up being the sacrifice? Okay? And Abraham's trying to get an idea that it may not be an animal. And suddenly Yahuah is saying, put your son up on the altar. And right when he was about to light the match, Yahuah brings his angel and swoops in and says, halt. This was a test. So obviously, you're not going to sacrifice your child in that sense of burning them on the altar. It's talking about the most desired loved ones, the most desired thing in your life. Are you willing to give it up to Yahuah? Are you willing to trust him even with that piece in your life? Well, during this time, this journey, my most precious that I had in my life were my two children, prodigal children. You know? And so it hurt very much that the ones that I loved the most were the ones that were going to, and that had been colluding with, to dismantle our family. And I understand that they felt left out. And they felt that they had to come and go, you know, on parenting time. But that's just how it was established in the court. I really tried to fix it like several times. It just cost a lot of money. And, you know, it matters to state truth. And when the time came, people messed up my testimonies, their testimonies, or the children didn't speak up. And you know what? It wasn't the right timing. But it is now. So we're reaching the point where Yahuah is stating How much do you love me? Are you willing to trust me with it all? And when I give them back, it's going to be different. They're not going to be the same because he has given them new hearts. So the prodigals will return with new hearts. So on 9/21/2024, test of trust. He says, pray for this video. So kono poko. Before I posted this, on that day, I saw blue celestial dots on my phone. And so it seemed like something was like manifesting in the spirit, because I haven't seen that before. Soul means pray for peace. Kono means my Father is my light. Po, here, hither, up until this point. So each level of ascending with the Father, Heavenly Father, you have to make sure that you love him more than anything and anybody in this world. Okay? Now, further on, what Po stands for, it's strong number 6311. And it means here or hither. Side, and on the other. Each side. So there's a verse that gives this word. Job 38:11, and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud ways be stayed. There's something phenomenal occurring, that when they return, the prodigals return, that the proud waves, the pride, the Leviathan spirit that was heightened in the past is going to be no longer an issue. Okay? Because part of it was a defiant operation, what was it called? Oppositional defiant disorder, which they call it in psychology. But it's a lot of spirits, hindering spirits, strongholds, spirit of offense, okay, which is the octopus spirit. There was manipulative spirit, okay. There was Jezebel. There was many spirits. There was the Pharaoh spirit, okay. There was giants that we had to slay down in these past 8 years. Okay, there was a lot of prayers, there was a lot of intercessory prayers, a lot of warfare prayers, there was a lot of times to fast, there was a lot of crying. Just because you're going through these trials and tribulations, it doesn't mean, and you're ascending, it has a lot to do with crying, it has a lot to do with becoming at your lowest. Testing of your character is actually bringing you down to your lowest. Why? Because some people may think, I'm not going to pray for them. Look how they stabbed me in the back and they literally threw me in jail. But if you think that way, you're not evolving. Because some of these people that have experienced this type of, I've ran into other parents, even an officer that called me regarding the prodigal children, a scenario that occurred with some puppies, and he said that he was dealing with the same thing, that the other parent turned his child against him, and it had crushed him and broke his heart to complete obliteration, and very depressed. And then to try to win them in court, and it's really difficult when the children don't want to cooperate and be honest. Okay, so I had another co-worker who dealt with the same thing, and the other parent turned their child against him, so he was without his child, and his parenting schedule was not respected, and so he hardly got to see, you know. Well, I'm in that predicament right now, where I didn't get to see my child. Not only did he turn them against, but then they went on hiding, and I didn't get to see my children for about 3.5 years. I didn't know where they were. It was to that level, and it was heart-wrenching, heartbreaking. But during that time, Yahuah was delivering me from all of that depression and sorrow and deep despair. And he also was giving me my other babies to mend my heart. There's a purpose why I have the children that I have. Okay, these are these end time warriors. They have a special mantle. And it's of his DNA for the, for reestablishing a new Jerusalem. So Gil's exposition of the entire Bible, talking about Job 38:11, and said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, and here shall thy proud waves be stayed. And said, hitherto shalt thou come, but no further, the waters of the sea shall spread themselves to such and such shores and wash them, but go no further. Its rolling tides shall go up so far in rivers that go out of it, and then return, keeping exactly to time and place. This is said by Yahuah in the word of Elohim, and through his mighty power is tended to. And here shall thy proud wave be staged so high, it's no higher shall they lift up themselves. So far and no farther shall they roll on. Then to the boundaries fixed for them, and though they may toss up themselves as proud men toss up their heads, for which reason pride is ascribed to them, yet they shall not prevail. Jeremiah 5:22. All this may be accommodated to the afflictions of Yahuah's people, which are sometimes compared to the waves and billows of the sea. Psalms 42:7. And then these issues out of the womb of Yahuah's purpose and decrees, and are not the effects of chance. They are many and threaten to overwhelm, but Yahuah is with his people in them and preserves them from being overflowed by them. And he has set the bounds and measures of them, beyond which they cannot go. So Daniel 7:2. And who rise and swell and dash against the people of Yahuah, being separated from them who were originally mixed with them. But Yahuah restrains their wrath and fury, and suffers them not to do his people any harm, whom he has placed in the munition of rocks out of their reach, that those proud waters cannot go over them as they threaten to do. Do you see that? Even though we are going through this many trials and tribulations, the hardships, the witchcraft, the divination, the black magic that was thrown at us, it did not harm us. It could not penetrate. It could not destroy us. It could not throw us in prison and keep us away from our little ones. It could not dismantle. And so what's going on is you're still going to go through trials, okay? But when you're under the shadow of Yahuah's wings, instead of it affecting you, is it going to hurt your feelings? Of course. Are you going to cry? Yes. But is it going to destroy your life? No, it's not. Okay? And all that time, it was Yahuah giving those other individuals, surrounding you with many people that do not like you and disrespect you, because he was training you. It was all about training you to be like, can you pray for them? Can you pray for your enemies? You know, the Bible says to love your enemies. Can you pray for them? Because he put them in your proximity because he knew you were a person to pray. And if he didn't do that, you would not notice them, and you probably wouldn't reach out to pray. And you're like, what's prayer got to do? Prayer's got to do everything with it. And if no one's sending out a prayer for that person, they got no chance. Okay? Not only is Yahuah not hearing their prayer because they're full of sin and self-righteousness and divination attacks, okay? They might get to go to hell. This is serious. And you're going to be like, who cares? They were rude to me. Okay, and yes, and they did batter, betray, throw in a pit, sell Joseph as well. Well, did he, and he went to jail, but did he sulk and spend his lifetime degrading them and cursing them? No. He was busy serving the Most High, learning about his supernatural gift, which is interpreting dreams, receiving dreams and visions, and he was elevated at one point, finally when at the appointed times. But from the pit to the palace, okay? In order, not everybody's going to get this severe amount of trials and tribulations. But if you are one of them, just know that it's purposeful to be surrounded by everybody that hate you and don't like you for no reason. Maybe for being a lovely person, for being bubbly, for being saying facts, standing up for yourself, not letting them trample all over you. That's why they don't like you. Maybe they don't like you because you're married, or they don't like you because you have children and they wanted what you have. All right then. Those are not really good reasons. Not like, that's called coveting. So maybe they don't like you because you moved on and you realized that they were a friend enemy and you moved on. Okay, many people do that. But why was it extraordinary, extremely colossal attacks? Because you were going places. Why was it also attacks at the workplace? Why? You know, why was it attacks from those exes, and then immediate family members, like within, and then the other extended family members? Why was everybody? That's not normal. Okay, that's why I'm saying it was supernatural, like spiritual, attacks. Everything that we go through is from cosmic powers, principalities, witchcraft. There's like, yes, a human person is doing the calamities, or trying to, but it's actually a spirit behind that person. Sometimes they're even possessed. Anyways, Genesis 22:5, and Abraham said unto his young men, abide ye here with the ass, and I and the lad will go yonder and worship, and come again to you. Okay, Henry's concise commentary. Never was any gold tried in so hot a fire, who but Abraham would not have argued. Yahuah. Such would have been the thought of a weak heart, but Abraham knew that he had to do what Yahuah, even what Yahuah said. Faith had taught him not to argue, but to obey, and he is and he is sure that what Yahuah command is good, that what he promises cannot be broken. In matters of Yahuah, whoever consults with the flesh and blood will never offer up his Isaac to Yahuah. And people thought we were crazy. They thought, like, you're heartless, and they would call us that and say you abandoned them, and we did not. It was supposed to be a 2-month break, and we were still picking them. I was still picking them up on my print time, but I was taking them to my mother's house just to remind them, you got to respect us. You can't be trying to call the police and throw us in jail all the time. You can't be listening to your father and believe all his lies. You know, we love everybody the same. Just because we had children, just because we got married, it doesn't mean that, you know, everything was fine and dandy. It was right when we got married and made a covenant pact with Yahuah is when all these attacks continued. Okay, so they took it a step further though, and wanted to hold a humongous grudge, you know, because when people are not mature, you know, and when they start getting clouded with many others speaking death into them, they end up believing it. Okay, and so it was sad that they ended up believing these lies. You know, sometimes living a privileged life, not wanting responsibilities, not wanting chores, to do chores, not wanting to be a helping hand and acts of service, and, you know, do other people's love languages. You just wanted to take, you know. It's easier to be evil. It's hard to be good. Okay, the other issue there was being sold out for takeout. Being sold out, the other parent promising gifts, promising takeout in order to bash our name with certain officials. And some children in this world, they take that opportunity. Even adults do. They take a buyout. They take a cash payout in secret, and they'll frame someone for the sake of a little bit of money, just like Judas did to Yahuah. Okay? And yes, it was very painful. It was immensely, because we thought we were done with it, and then we were experiencing it again. And then when we couldn't find our children, then the other individuals around us were doing it to us. So we were acting like loners, and you noticed, we had to be. Okay? So I kept my circle very small. And it was lonely, but not really, because I was spending a lot of time with my Heavenly Father. And I'm telling you this because this may happen to you. Not that I want it to, but if it does, you know, you're not alone. Why do I have to broadcast my personal life? The very thing that I did not want to do. For real. I did not want to have a channel, and I did not want to give speeches, and I did not want to share my life story. You know, I wanted to keep it on the hush. I'm a very private person. I don't like to be, you know, on camera. I don't like to be the center of attention, you know, in a room. I like small circles. I'm an introvert. But here we are. Here we are, accepting the call. Accepting the call. Yahuah gave me this platform to share the most hardship, hurtful, and also supernaturally amazing experiences I've ever had in my life. And that's the thing. Will you answer the call? Will you give up your Isaac? Maybe your Isaac is your professional career. And he's like, no, you're not going to be, you know, a sports broadcaster anymore. Or you're not going to be a hairstylist. Or you're not going to be a teacher anymore. You're going to follow me, and you're going to be fishers of men. Will you answer it if you're getting paid really good? Because at my job, I was getting paid pretty good. Okay? I'm getting paid pretty good. You know? And so you're going to be like, why would you leave that job? First of all, it took forever to have it ergonomic, and actually was hurting my body. I think that's part of the, not even fibro, it was non-ergonomic. Okay? But, I mean, why would you leave it? It's kind of like, would you leave it though? Would you leave your position and follow the call? Because that's what all the disciples did. They dropped everything and they followed him. Now, if he's calling you to follow him in that type of, you know, particular, you know, to be a particular training, okay, it takes some time. I didn't just drop my job. I was working in this for 3 years before I was given the opportunity to be getting paid to do this, only this job, okay, while I'm doing healing. So it took some time, and he has saw. I just prepared a prophetic word regarding, because returning to the tent of meeting, he has been promoting people to paying them, rewarding them, and now supplying the income to pay their mortgage, to pay their rent, with the ordained calling ministry. So he did answer my prayers in some sense, because he's giving me a job where it's creative, and it's giving a voice to not having a voice, not being allowed to have a voice, and then now having one. And maybe I thought I was gonna have a voice, like in being in society. I didn't know I was gonna have a voice, to the nations. I didn't know I was gonna do that to that level. So he shocked me in that, and it has been a journey to accept to that level. It's been a journey to accept that call, okay? And then it's been eye-opening that we have to, because it's not just me, it's my entire family, even the prodigals. They have a special gift. The prodigals are the ones that are the end times warriors that have been out in the world. He's bringing the diamonds that are in the rough, the diamonds in the rough. He's bringing the ones that have lived a treacherous life. They look like ordinary people. I look like an ordinary person, but really they are highly anointed, and they are the ones that can connect and relate to every civilized person out in the world, and relate to them on a special connection, and help them through the darkest times of their life. And right now he's saying there's an Isaac that needs to be given up, and then because of you did that, now there's a reward. Okay? And Abraham was cringing with sadness and despair, having to set that altar up. Okay? But he also knew behind the scenes that Yahuah had a plan, and he was going to bring forth the ram that was in the bush. He knew that something, a miraculous, was going to have to happen, because he wasn't going to be able to just believe that Yahuah has malicious intent, right? Okay, so it says, the good patriarch rises early and begins his sad journey, and now he travels 3 days, and Isaac still is in his sight. Misery is made worse when long continued. So it's been kind of a misery, not having them close, not knowing where they were. And then I had another battle going on where my other ex was trying to steal my other child, and he had done it already a few other times. So we were going through really hard times of heartbreak, and it was always when I had another baby, when we had something triumphant. That's when they try to hurt even more, and you're going to be like, well, what do you do then? You can't hold a grudge. You got to heal. And then you also have to pray for them. Can you do that? Can you do that? I know it's hard, but yes, you can. Abraham did it. Okay, so now the expression "we will come again to you" shows that Abraham expected that Isaac, being raised from the dead, will return to him. It was a very affecting question that Isaac asked him as they were going together. Were they going together? My father said, Isaac. It was a melting word, which one would think should strike deeper in the heart of Abraham than his knife could in the heart of Isaac. Yet he waits for his son's question. Then Abraham, where he meant not, prophesies, my son, Yahuah will provide a land for the burnt offering. The Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, by his mouth seems to predict the Lamb of Yahuah, which he has provided, and which taketh away the sin of the world. And Abraham lays the wood in order for his son Isaac's funeral pile, and now tells him the amazing news: Isaac, thou art the lamb which Yahuah has provided. Abraham, no doubt, comforting him with the same hopes with which he himself by faith was comforted. Yet it is necessary that the sacrifice be bound. The great sacrifice which in the fullness of time was to be offered up must be bound, and so must Isaac. This being done, Abraham takes the knife, stretches out his hand to give the fatal blow. Here is an act of faith, obedience, which deserves to be a spectacle to Yahuah, angels, and men. Yahuah, by his providence, calls us to part with an Isaac sometimes. And we must do it with cheerful submission to his holy will. 1 Samuel 3:18. This is a refiner's fire. Testing. Full submission. Trusting. You know why it was hard for me to sacrifice? Because I didn't trust the person they were going to go to raise them well. He had done many abominations, and I really did not trust him. And it was not going to be a good fit for that person to be the sole caretaker. Okay? So, it was a monumental trust. And I can't tell you that I was perfect every time, and I was cheerful all these years. You know, I'm so overall a cheerful, I'm outgoing, I'm a positive person, but there has been many times where I do cry, I do ache, my body aches for them, for that decision. But I know now that it was purposeful. That the pain and suffering was purposeful. And that the prodigals are going to return. So, thank you for joining me on this Supernatural Diaries. And I'll see you in the next video. Shalom.